Habari Kenya.
Musicheze na moto. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia.
So a few days ago, Kenyan people invited me to their Twitter space. It was very, very important. I never expected it. I have full gist to give the world. Mr. President, normally, ordinarily, we use thief to catch thief. And that's why we voted for you. To catch these thieves. But it's so unfortunate that you went there and you are laughing with the thieves.
Deputy President William Ruto is the most corrupt political leader in Kenya. This is according to the latest poll by research firm Ipsos Synovate. The report indicates that 33% of Kenyans rank the deputy president as the most corrupt.
These are, and you know very well, you can see their fingerprints, that these are beneficiaries of corruption. They are so daring with impunity that they want to manipulate the whole system.
William Ruto's colourful stint in cabinet has come to a halt, at least for the time being, this evening after the president announced his suspension as a minister. In the case, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission accuses Ruto of allegedly receiving 96 million shillings after allegedly selling land belonging to the Ministry of Environment to the Kenya Pipeline Corporation.
The 96 million shilling fraud case against Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto resumed today.
In the court case in which Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto has been accused of improperly acquiring 100 acres of land that belonged to an internally displaced person during the post-election violence period, Adrian Gilbert Muteshi, the petitioner...
These people who are claiming this land, who are fencing it, are Airport View. So it means that the Airport View owners should have been arrested.
The police on Monday were acting on the behest of a very powerful person who the president himself is afraid to name. You know why? It's his deputy.
Deputy President William Ruto has now admitted that the land on which Weston Hotel sits was acquired illegally.
Musicheze na moto. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia.
It was an anticlimax of sorts after the much-anticipated introduction of a censure motion against the Agriculture Minister over a maize scandal failed to materialize. But a source has now confirmed to Citizen that the motion has been slotted on Wednesday's order paper. So in less than 24 hours, the political career of William Ruto will be facing an acid test. Ikolomani MP Boni Halwale, who is sponsoring, will file the motion in the morning. But Ruto has been working frantically to marshal backing from members of parliament across the divide.
Deputy President William Ruto, who was the Agriculture Minister at the time, and the then Minister for Special Programs in the Grand Coalition government, Dr. Naomi Shaban, wanted the government to smuggle maize from Tanzania after stock from the Strategic Grain Reserve was depleted.
Now, 3 rebel Jubilee MPs now want Deputy President William Ruto and his allies investigated over the maize and fertilizer scandal.
Shida zetu mingi ya mahindi, ya fertilizer na hii mambo yote imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Naibu Rais na ofisi yake. Tunataka ofisi yake ichunguzwe, wale wote waliimport mahindi kutoka ng'ambo, watuambie mbona waliimport mahindi. Ile fertilizer ambayo mumeleta, mumefuruka bei.
You can see the level of corruption in this country.
My friend, wachana na hii maneno. Ni ufisadi na watu kupora mali, tuzibe hayo mashimo, tuachane na mambo ya bottoms up. Na wengine wanatoka huko wanasema economy ya bottoms up.
In the same vein, I challenge DP Ruto alias Arab Mashamba, well known for his unbridled greed for both public and private land, to offer himself for investigation.
When I say that some people, if they assume the responsibility of leadership, they will put the whole Central Bank of Kenya on the back. Hiyo ni Central Bank ya Kenya, mtu anakimbia nayo.
Sicheze na moto. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Munataka kurudi kwa moto ama munataka kuokoka? Munataka kuokoka?
Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
There are people in our judicial system who are facilitating corruption by working with the corrupt. That is why certain cases go to certain judges because they are part of the corruption enterprise and the corruption industry in Kenya. And I want to tell you, all these collaborators, we will deal with them firmly and decisively. We serve notice to those in government, those in the engineers of corruption in the private sector who bribe government officials at the county, at the national to facilitate corruption, and those who have made it a habit to go and hide in court with court orders, with stay orders and all the things that go around in court. We are going to make sure that the judicial officers who facilitate corruption...
Look at the list of people who are within William Ruto's regime, either from the deputy president to ministers to MPs who've crossed over to his side to people appointed to cabinet who had criminal cases, all of which have been terminated. Those who had monies frozen have been given back to them. Did he complain that the judiciary was corrupt? No. Indeed, William Ruto himself even has a case of Weston that has been in the courts for the last 5 years, has not been heard, at the request of his advocate, to stall it, hoping that he would be elected, and eventually is elected. Your guess is as good as mine where that case will go. Has he ever complained? No.
In an interview on BBC program Hard Talk, the deputy president sought to clear the air on the matter, stating that he was only but an innocent purchaser of the land. Akisa Wandera reports.
Tell me about the Weston Hotel, which you own, which is worth an awful lot of money and which is sitting on illegally acquired land.
Weston Hotel is a big story.
It is.
In
Kenyans
fact,
are following it very closely, and it may be why you're top of that poll.
You will want to believe that Weston Hotel occupies half of Nairobi. Weston Hotel sits on 0.7 hectares of land.
Illegally acquired
70,000
land. Which actually belongs to the Civil
the city
Aviation
of
Authority, and then you miraculously acquired it and built a hotel.
For your information, Weston Hotel was bought.
Illegally?
Not bought illegally.
A rare, shocking and unexpected revelation from Deputy President William Ruto on the controversial 1.7-acre piece of land that has continued to haunt him for years now.
For the record, the National Land Commission has made a finding that Weston was an innocent purchaser for value from somebody who got it illegally. And reparations have been made constitutionally to restore that land to Kenya Civil Aviation Authority by demanding that those who sold the land to us must pay.
It's the audacity of somebody like him fronting himself and portraying himself as the hope for reform. To me, is the biggest irony of all. The Youth for KANU movement that he was one of the prime forces behind was a very, very damaging movement. It took youth, bribed them, and tried to convince them that we should stay with the autocratic KANU of those days. Thank God, eventually they were defeated.
What does one do with the new kid on the block who, a lot of people have problems with? Confront him in public. Call him on national TV. Ask him, have you ever worked? What businesses have you invested in? And when did you invest in these businesses? How much money have they made? If he convinces you that he's an astute businessman, then he would convince you that he's an astute leader.
He has every right to hustle, but he has no right to pretend that he is the reformer or he's coming to bring me change. His track record speaks the reverse. There's a road that leads from State House down into town. It's called Processional Way. Mr. Ruto actually returned the titles to that road in 2003 after the NARC election. In what capacity had he ended up owning a road is the question you should ask him.
William Ruto's colourful stint in cabinet has come to a halt, at least for the time being, this evening after the president announced his suspension as a minister. In a statement to newsrooms, the Presidential Press Service said that the President had, after consultations with the Prime Minister, suspended the Higher Education Minister awaiting the outcome of a court case that has been pending at the Nairobi Chief Magistrates Court since 2004, which was given the green light to proceed by the High Court last week. In the case, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission accuses RUTO of allegedly receiving 96 million shillings after allegedly selling land belonging to the Ministry of Environment to the Kenya Pipeline Corporation. But RUTO had moved to the High Court to challenge the charges. But the High Court declined to grant RUTO his plea and instead gave the green light for the case to proceed. According to the Economic Crimes Act, any public officer faced with corruption or criminal charges should either step aside or be suspended by the appointing authority.
According to the suit papers filed at the Nairobi High Court Registry, Adrian Gilbert Muteshi claims he was driven out of his 100-acre piece of land situated in Kapta Bay scheme in Uasin Gishu district at the height of the post-poll chaos in 2007, and upon his expulsion, he claims the Eldoret North MP William RUTO grabbed it. He asked the court to issue orders to preserve the land until the case is determined. Justice Hannah Okwengu issued temporary orders barring RUTO from interfering with the land. In the court papers, Muteshi says he bought the land from a white settler identified as Mr. Edmund in 1968, and he has signed a sale agreement to prove this. He says the purchase of the land was approved by the then Lands Minister Jackson Angaine in October 3, 1968. Muteshi further says that he signed a sale and loan agreement with the Settlement Fund trustees for the purchase of the land. He claims the value of the land is now about 50 million shillings and says he has been a victim of fraud, manipulation of government process and unfair treatment.
Day 4 on the dock, and the case against Eldoret North Member of Parliament William RUTO, Baringo Central MP Sami Mwaita, and former aide to former President Daniel Arap Moi, Joshua Kule, continued as more witnesses moved in to testify on the 96 million shilling fraud case.
When I say that some people, if they assume the responsibility of leadership, they will put the whole Central Bank of Kenya on the back.
Some of his social media postings were considered daring and even reckless. And on the 1st of March, he declared that he was willing to die, quote, for the sake of this nation, if that is what will save us from corruption. According to him, and I quote, I have lived long enough to worry about death, he posted. 3 days later, he went on his Facebook page to reveal what he termed a network of well-connected individuals who were benefiting from a scandal that robbed taxpayers of at least 791 million shillings. In a Facebook post dated 3:24 p.m. 4th of March, the late Jacob Juma alleged that Farouk Kibet, a personal aide to DP William RUTO, received some 35 million shillings as, quote, part payment from the NYS loot. The late Juma claimed Farouk Kibet bought 2 houses from Kilimani amid, quote, all payments were made in cash. The long post roped in businessman Ben Gethi and Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen as part of a communication network. He then proceeds to post a graph of the alleged communication web involving phone call conversations between Gethi, Murkomen and Farouk Kibet.
It has been established and presented in this committee and elsewhere that monies from Kafura have been linked to simultaneous deposits in a company associated with Ben Gethi called Horizon Limited, and similarly there have been transactions involving Ben Gethi and Josephine Kafura with Senator Kipchumba Murkomen and with Farouk Kibet.
In subsequent postings, the late Juma declared that Anne Waiguru was not clean. She bought a house in Kihingo Estate, Kitisuro, at 150 million shillings in cash, he posted. In the same posting, the late Juma claims Anne Waiguru introduced former radio presenter Angela Angwenyi to the NYS, and out of it, Angela's company Out of the Box made off with 90 million shillings.
Tonight, Deputy President Dr. William Ruto could be a man walking a tight rope in the next few days as the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, probes claims that his office could have been used for the signing of fake military surveillance equipment by besieged former Sports Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa. The question that lingers on people's mind, however, is whether indeed Echesa used the DP's office and why, if so, yet he is not a government official. Was Ruto or his handlers involved or in the know on this case, or was it a case of blackmail against the DP?
If a fraudulent former minister can enter into the office, the second highest office, with fraudulent papers, with rubber stamps, with foreigners, and he starts signing, you can see that level.
When we elected you as the president, normally they say, you set a thief to catch a thief. But this time round, when we elected you, Mr. President, that you can help us now catch those people who are corrupting this nation, you're just there laughing with them.
Because there's also the big question of corruption, which has been the biggest part of the conversation, and which is also the reason why people asked him to send the cabinet home.
There was one lady in one of the roads departments, corrupt to the core, to the extent that she could not be transferred by anybody, even by the minister, because if she was transferred, she will go to court, buy the court process, and make sure that she's returned. That is the kind of chronic where corruption has taken us. I hope Mr. Kipchumba Murkomen and Bwana Mbogwa, I hope that lady no longer works for the government of Kenya. Yeah. We cannot have such.
Now, 3 rebel Jubilee MPs now want Deputy President William Ruto and his allies investigated over the maize and fertilizer scandal.
Well, the MPs, led by controversial Nandi Hills legislator Alfred Kater, said Ruto is squarely to blame for problems facing maize farmers in Rift Valley region.
Wezi ni wezi, wametubora mpaka mahindi wamemaliza, wale wanalia kule nyumbani. Wametuzoea, wanatuibia mpaka sisi. Na unajua watu wakiiba, juzi niliuliza kwa sababu walinipigia simu wakaniambia, sasa wewe naona unaanza kukoroga mambo na mimi naomba kura 2022. Nikamwambia, wewe, maombi yangu mheshimiwa Keteri, kwa sababu mimi nataka kuwa rais hata mimi siku moja. Wewe ukipata nafasi, watu wa Kenya watachukia jamii yetu ya Kalenjin wakifikiria sisi ni wezi kama wewe. Nikamwambia, kama kuna mtu anakuombea usipate nafasi ya kuwa rais, ndio mimi wa kwanza, kwa sababu there is nothing like a tribe. You don't steal on behalf of a community. Ukiiba na ununue helikopta unajiandikisha wewe mwenyewe. You don't register in the name of Nandi Nation, then Kalenjin, Kipsigis or Tugen. You register on behalf of yourself and your family.
And indeed I hold the view that is the least qualified. And I didn't come here to discuss his presidency bid. Those are my personal views. There are very many issues, and some of them surround Chapter 6. Yeah. The public issues, public scandals he's been involved in are just too much, day by day. You see? And I don't want to go beyond that. I consider Ruto unsuitable.
Yes.
And I have my own reasons.
Yes.
His supporters have their own reasons. But I also have my right to speak out. I consider him totally unsuitable. But that's my view as an individual.
Uchumi uko kwa hali mbaya. Unaambiwa lipa. Kwani wewe ni mwajiri wa KRA? Ama wewe umeajiriwa kufanya biashara yako ama kwa kampuni fulani? Asubuhi mtu wa KRA anatokea kwa mlango wa mbele. Ikifika saa 10 mtu wa KRA anatokea kwa mlango wa nyuma. Haupumui bwana. Hata mama mboga hapumui. Bodaboda hapumui. Sasa mama anatoroka saloon kwa sababu mambo ni magumu, lakini KRA imemfuata paka kwa jikoni kuongeza bei ya gas. But this is what is hurting us. Na wengine wanatoka huko wanasema economy ya bottoms up. Hii Kiingereza kingi. You're confusing us. My friend, wachana na hii maneno. Ni ufisadi na watu kupora mali. Tuzibe hayo mashimo, tuachane na mambo ya bottoms up, tuachane na mambo ya trickle down. That is the solution. It is theft, mismanagement of resources. That is what is happening.
Because it is not going to be business as usual. Even as we look places where we find, even as we do what we have to do to make sure that all Kenyans are we avoid pilferage, we avoid corruption. Even as we do that, for those of the incorrigible characters, the people who benefit from corruption, the people who try even to influence the criminal justice system, the people who beneficiaries, like what I talked to you about. I mean, surely the people who are going to court to stop, implementation of programs that are public, these are, and you know very well, you can see their fingerprints, that these are beneficiaries of corruption. They are so daring with impunity that they want to manipulate the whole system.
When we elected you as the president, normally they say, you set a thief to catch a thief. But this time round, when we elected you, Mr. President, that you can help us now catch those people who are corrupting this nation, you're just there laughing with them.
Musicheze na moto. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Si mumecheza na moto na mumeumia. Munataka kurudi kwa moto ama munataka kuokoka? Munataka kuokoka?